I'm Lisa Thompson, and I'm standing in my daughter's bedroom doorway watching her pack a suitcase with tears streaming down her face. Emma, my 14-year-old, won't even look at me as she throws clothes into the bag. Just 3 hours ago, she screamed that she hated me and wanted to live with Aunt Jessica permanently. My 12-year-old son, Tyler, is already downstairs refusing to speak to me, convinced that I'm some kind of monster who's been lying to them their entire lives. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. How did I get here? How did my own children, the ones I've sacrificed everything for since my divorce, suddenly believe that their Aunt Jessica is their savior, and I'm their enemy? The answer lies in my phone, where I have screenshots, recordings, and evidence that will shatter my sister's perfect facade. Jessica Martinez has spent the last 8 months systematically poisoning my kids against me with carefully crafted lies, manipulation, and promises of a better life in her Newport Beach mansion. But she made one crucial mistake. She underestimated a mother's determination and a teacher's attention to detail. Tonight, Emma found something hidden in her backpack that Jessica never meant for her to see. Something that revealed the truth about every lie, every manipulation, every cruel scheme my sister had orchestrated. Now, Jessica's precious reputation, her lifestyle blog with 100,000 followers, her picture-perfect marriage to a tech millionaire, it's all about to come crashing down. Because sometimes the only way to fight poison is with an antidote. And my antidote is the truth. 8 months ago, I thought I had my life together. Sure, the divorce from Mike had been rough and money was tight on a teacher's salary, but Emma and Tyler were thriving. We had our little routines, our inside jokes, our movie nights on my old couch in our modest house on Maple Street and Riverside. I was teaching 3rd grade at the local elementary school, the same school where I'd been working for 12 years. The kids in my class adored me, parents respected me, and my own children seemed happy despite the upheaval of their parent separation. Jessica had always been the golden child in our family, 4 years younger than me, but somehow always managing to outshine everything I accomplished. When we were kids, she was the one who got the lead in school plays while I helped with costumes. She was homecoming queen while I was on the debate team. She married her college boyfriend right after graduation while I struggled through my teaching degree as a single woman. Even when she divorced her first husband, she somehow landed on her feet by meeting David Martinez, a wealthy tech executive who swept her off to Newport Beach and into a lifestyle most people only dream about. I never resented her success. Not really. I was proud of my sister for building her lifestyle blog, Living the Dream Life, into something that generated real income. Her Instagram posts from her waterfront mansion, her perfectly curated family photos with her stepdaughter Sophie, her sponsored content for luxury brands, it all seemed so effortless and beautiful. When she started inviting Emma and Tyler to spend more time at her house, I was grateful. My kids deserved to experience nice things, and Jessica seemed genuinely excited to be the fun aunt who could give them adventures I couldn't afford. The first sign something was wrong came on a Tuesday evening in February. I was grading papers at the kitchen table when Emma walked in from Jessica's house looking troubled. She sat down across from me and started fidgeting with her pencil eraser, something she only did when she was processing difficult emotions. "Mom," she said carefully, "Aunt Jessica was asking me some weird questions today." I looked up from the multiplication worksheets I was reviewing. Emma had my full attention now. "What kind of questions, sweetheart?" "She wanted to know if you ever say mean things about Dad, and if you get angry a lot at home, and if we have enough food in the house." Emma's voice got smaller with each question. I told her no, but she kept asking like she didn't believe me. Then she said sometimes adults hide their real feelings from kids and that it's okay to tell her if you're not treating us right. A cold feeling settled in my stomach, but I kept my voice calm. That does sound like strange questions for her to ask. Did anything happen that made her think we were having problems? Emma shrugged. "I don't think so. But Mom, she also said that if we ever wanted to live somewhere with more space and nicer things, her door was always open. She said David really likes having kids around, and Sophie would love to have us there more often.
This year, but maybe we could do something fun locally? He exploded. Aunt Jessica said you just don't want us to have nice things, he screamed. She said you could afford it if you really wanted to, but you spend all your money on yourself instead of us. I was stunned. Not only was this completely untrue, but Jessica knew exactly how tight my budget was. She'd seen me struggle to pay for Tyler's soccer fees and Emma's art supplies. She knew I was driving a 10-year-old Honda because I couldn't afford car payments. The idea that I was selfishly hoarding money while depriving my children was not only false, but cruel. Tyler, that's not true at all, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. You know how hard I work, and every extra dollar we have goes to things you and Emma need. That's what Aunt Jessica said you'd say, Tyler replied, his voice cold in a way that chilled me. She said you'd make excuses and try to make us feel bad for wanting better things. That night, after Tyler had gone to bed, still angry, I called Jessica. She answered on the third ring, her voice bright and cheerful as always. Lisa, how are you? I was just posting some adorable photos of Emma and Tyler from yesterday. They're such photogenic kids. Jessica, we need to talk. Tyler came home upset, saying you told him I could afford to take them on vacation, but choose not to. There was a pause, and when Jessica spoke again, her tone had shifted slightly. Oh, that. I think there might have been a misunderstanding. I was just talking to Tyler about how different families have different priorities with money. I never said you were choosing not to spend on them. But I knew what I'd heard from Tyler, and it wasn't a misunderstanding. It was a deliberate manipulation designed to make me look selfish and uncaring. Jessica, please don't discuss my finances with my children. It's not appropriate, and it's causing problems. I'm sorry you feel that way, she said, and I could hear the artificial sweetness creeping into her voice. I just want what's best for Emma and Tyler. They seem so unhappy sometimes when they talk about home. Unhappy? What are you talking about? They've never expressed being unhappy to me. Well, maybe they don't feel comfortable telling you directly. Kids often confide in other adults about things they can't say to their parents. The implication was clear. My own children were supposedly miserable with me, but too afraid or polite to say so directly. Jessica was positioning herself as their confidant and advocate, while painting me as some kind of oblivious or intimidating parent they couldn't communicate with. After I hung up, I sat in my quiet kitchen feeling like the ground had shifted beneath my feet. Jessica wasn't just being the generous aunt anymore. She was actively working to undermine my relationship with my own children, using lies and manipulation to make them question their happiness with me and their loyalty to our family. But this was only the beginning. Over the next several months, Jessica's campaign against me would become more sophisticated, more damaging, and more successful than I could have imagined. She understood something I was slow to recognize. Children are vulnerable to manipulation, especially when it comes wrapped in luxury and delivered by someone they trust. And Jessica had both the resources and the ruthlessness to wage psychological warfare against a working single mother who was just trying to keep her family together. What I didn't know yet was that Jessica's motivations went far deeper than just wanting to be the favorite aunt. There was things about her own life, her marriage, and her desperate need for validation that were driving her to destroy my relationship with my children. And there were...
Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story.
Secret she was keeping that once revealed would expose her not as the perfect lifestyle guru she pretended to be, but as someone whose own life was built on lies, manipulation, and a carefully constructed facade. The war for my children's hearts and minds was about to begin in earnest, and I was walking into battle completely unprepared for the lengths my own sister would go to win. By April, Jessica's influence over Emma and Tyler had grown stronger, and with it came a shift in how they viewed everything about our life together. What had once been comfortable routines now seemed inadequate through their newly critical eyes. Our Friday night pizza and movie tradition became boring compared to Jessica's elaborate dinner parties. Our weekend trips to the local park or beach were lame when Jessica could take them to exclusive resorts and private clubs. Even simple moments like helping with homework or making breakfast became opportunities for unfavorable comparisons to their aunt's seemingly effortless perfection. The most painful change was in how they spoke to me. Emma, who had always been my thoughtful, artistic daughter, began responding to my questions with eye rolls and sighs that seemed too sophisticated for a 14-year-old. When I'd ask her about her day, she'd give me one-word answers before disappearing into her room to video chat with Jessica. Tyler, my sweet boy who used to help me cook dinner and tell me about his soccer practices, became sullen and argumentative. Simple requests like cleaning his room or finishing his homework were met with complaints about how unfair I was being. The breaking point came during a particularly difficult evening in late April. I'd been working late, grading standardized test papers for my third-grade class, when I realized I hadn't started dinner. It was already 7 p.m. and both kids were hungry and cranky. I suggested we order Chinese takeout, something that used to be a special treat in our house. Instead of the excitement I expected, Tyler groaned dramatically. "Chinese food again? Aunt Jessica says eating takeout all the time is bad for us. She says real families cook real meals together." His words cut deep because I knew they weren't his own thoughts. This was Jessica speaking through my 12-year-old son. Emma chimed in from where she was sprawled on the couch, not looking up from her phone. "Yeah, and Jessica says kids need structure and routine, not just whatever's convenient for the parent." I felt my patience snap in a way it rarely did. "Girls, I work full-time to provide for this family. Some nights, takeout is what we can manage, and that's perfectly fine. Many families eat takeout sometimes." "Jessica never feeds us takeout," Tyler said defiantly. "She plans meals ahead of time like a good mom should." The implication hung in the air between us. Jessica was the good mom. I was the inadequate one, who couldn't even manage to cook a proper dinner.
What was happening? This wasn't just kids being influenced by a wealthy relative. This was systematic. Jessica was deliberately undermining my parenting, my choices, and my relationship with Emma and Tyler. She was using her resources and access to plant seeds of dissatisfaction and resentment that were growing into something much more dangerous. I decided to start paying closer attention to what my children were telling me about their time with Jessica. What I discovered over the next few weeks was a carefully orchestrated campaign designed to make them question everything about their life with me. During one of our increasingly rare heart-to-heart conversations, Emma let slip that Jessica had been asking detailed questions about our home life. Not casual interest, but probing inquiries that felt more like an interrogation. Jessica wanted to know if I ever lost my temper, if I made them feel guilty about the divorce, if I talked badly about their father, if I seemed sad or overwhelmed. When Emma answered honestly that I was generally patient and positive, Jessica would respond with concern. "Sometimes adults hide their real feelings from children," Jessica had told Emma. "And sometimes parents put pressure on kids to be loyal, even when the situation isn't healthy for them. I just want you to know that you can tell me the truth, even if it's something that might make your mom upset." The insidious nature of this manipulation was breathtaking. Jessica was teaching my daughter to question my emotional stability and honesty while positioning herself as the safe person Emma could confide in. She was creating doubt where none had existed before and offering herself as the solution to problems she was inventing. With Tyler, the approach was different, but equally calculated. Jessica focused on his desire for material things and experiences, constantly highlighting what he was missing by living with me. She'd show him photos of other kids his age who lived in luxury, attend private schools, and had access to opportunities that seemed impossibly out of reach for a teacher's son. "Tyler, you're such a smart, talented kid. It's just too bad you're not in a situation where you can really reach your potential. Some kids get every advantage, and others have to struggle just because of the choices their parents made." She never directly criticized me to Tyler, but she didn't need to. The implication was clear. I was holding him back. My financial limitations, my modest lifestyle, my inability to provide the luxuries Jessica could offer were obstacles to Tyler achieving his dreams. And conveniently,
Jessica was there with an alternative. The conversations always ended the same way. Jessica would remind both children that they had options. Her home was always open to them. David loved having kids around. Sophie enjoyed being a big sister figure. They could have their own rooms, better schools, more opportunities. All they had to do was want it enough. What made this manipulation particularly effective was how Jessica packaged it. She never presented herself as trying to steal them away from me. Instead, she framed everything as concern for their well-being and happiness. She was just the caring aunt who wanted the best for them, who could see their potential and wanted to help them achieve it. If that meant less time with their apparently inadequate mother, well, that was just an unfortunate but necessary sacrifice for their benefit. By May, the psychological campaign was showing serious results. Emma and Tyler began talking about spending the summer with Jessica instead of in our usual day camp and vacation arrangements. They approached this not as a request, but almost as a foregone conclusion, as if they'd already discussed it extensively with Jessica and were just informing me of the decision. Jessica said we could spend the whole summer in Newport Beach, Emma announced one evening over dinner. Sophie's family is going to Europe for 2 weeks, and we could come with them. And when we're not traveling, we could take sailing lessons and art classes that actually matter for college applications. Tyler nodded eagerly. And I could train with this elite soccer club that Jessica knows about. She says coaches from high school teams scout their players all the time. I looked at my children, seeing the excitement in their eyes for opportunities I could never provide, and felt my heart break a little more. Those sound like wonderful experiences, but we haven't discussed summer plans yet, and I was looking forward to spending time with you. Emma's face fell, but not with disappointment, with irritation. Mom, this is about our future. Jessica says sometimes parents have to put their own wants aside for what's best for their kids. There it was again. Jessica's voice coming out of my daughter's mouth, with complete the subtle accusation that I was being selfish by wanting time with my own children. The implication that a loving parent would automatically support this arrangement, and my hesitation proved I was putting my own needs above theirs. Tyler jumped in with his version of Jessica's reasoning. Yeah, and it's not like we wouldn't see you at all. Jessica said you could visit whenever you want. She said her house is big enough for everyone. The patronizing tone in my 12-year-old voice was like a slap. Jessica had convinced them that they were being generous by offering to include me as a visitor in their new, improved life with her. I was being demoted from mother to occasional guest, and they'd been taught to present this as a kindness. That night, I called my best friend Amanda, another teacher who'd known me and the kids for years. I needed someone to help me process what was happening and confirm that I wasn't losing my mind. Amanda, I think Jessica is trying to steal my kids, I said without preamble when she answered. What do you mean steal them? Like custody? No, worse, she's convincing them that their life with me is inadequate and that she can offer them something better. They're starting to see me as the obstacle to their happiness instead of their mother. Amanda was quiet for a long moment. Lisa, that's serious. What exactly is she doing? I spent the next hour detailing the conversations, the changes in Emma and Tyler's behavior, the constant comparisons, and the way Jessica positioned every interaction. Amanda listened without interrupting, and when I finished, she was silent again. This is emotional manipulation, Lisa. Jessica is essentially grooming your children to prefer her over you. The question is, why? What does she get out of this? That was the question that had been nagging at me. Jessica had her own life, her own stepdaughter, her successful blog, and wealthy husband. Why did she need my children too? What was driving this campaign to turn Emma and Tyler against me? The answer would come sooner than I expected, and it would reveal that Jessica's motivations were far more complicated and disturbing than simple sibling
Rivalry or misguided generosity. Her perfect life, her social media success, and her marriage to David Martinez were all built on foundations that were far less stable than they appeared. And Emma and Tyler weren't just the targets of her manipulation. They were pawns in a much larger game Jessica was playing to maintain her carefully constructed facade. Over the next few weeks, I began to notice patterns in Jessica's behavior that suggested her interest in my children wasn't just about them.
Her social media posts increasingly featured Emma and Tyler, always presented as loving family moments, but strategically crafted to showcase her as a nurturing, family-oriented woman. Her blog posts began incorporating stories about being there for family and the joy of helping children reach their potential. She was using my kids as content for her brand, and more importantly, as props to support the image she needed to maintain. But there was something else, something I was only beginning to understand. Jessica's marriage to David, which from the outside looked like a fairy tale romance, was apparently not as solid as she pretended. Through casual comments Emma and Tyler made about their time at Jessica's house, I started to piece together a picture of tension and discord that Jessica was desperate to hide. David, it seemed, was not as enthusiastic about children as Jessica claimed. He was often absent during Emma and Tyler's visits, working late or traveling for business in ways that seemed suspiciously convenient. When he was around, he was polite but distant, more like a stranger tolerating house guests than a man who genuinely enjoyed having kids in his home. Sophie, his 10-year-old daughter from his first marriage, had apparently made some pointed comments about how different her father acted when other children were around. Jessica's desperation to present herself as the perfect stepmother and family woman was becoming clearer. Her entire identity, both online and in her social circle, was built around being someone who had it all: the successful career, the wealthy husband, the beautiful home, and the loving family relationships. But the family part was failing, and she needed Emma and Tyler to fill that gap. They were her proof that she was a natural caregiver, a woman who could successfully blend families and create the kind of domestic harmony that her followers admired. The more I understood Jessica's motivations, the more calculating and cruel her manipulation appeared. She wasn't just undermining my relationship with my children out of jealousy or competition. She was using them to solve problems in her own life, to maintain an image that was essential to her identity and income. Emma and Kyler weren't people to her. They were solutions to her personal and professional challenges. This realization filled me with a cold fury that was different from anything I'd felt before. It was one thing for Jessica to compete with me or even to try to hurt me directly, but using my children, manipulating their emotions and loyalties for her own benefit while damaging their relationship with their mother, that was unforgivable. It was time to stop being the understanding sister and start being the protective mother. Jessica had chosen to make my children the battlefield for her personal insecurities and image management. Now she was going to discover what happened when she threatened the most important thing in my world. The first crack in Jessica's carefully constructed manipulation came from an unexpected source: Sophie Martinez, David's 10-year-old daughter from his first marriage. It happened during a school pickup in early June when I was collecting Emma from an after-school art program. Sophie was there too, having attended the same program, and she climbed into my car alongside Emma for the ride back to Jessica's house. "Mrs. Thompson," Sophie said quietly from the back seat, "can I ask you something?" "Of course, sweetheart. What's on your mind?" Sophie glanced at Emma, who was absorbed in her phone, then leaned forward slightly. "Why does Jessica always take pictures when you guys are around? She never takes pictures of me and my dad unless Emma and Tyler are there too." The question caught me off guard, but it confirmed something I'd been sensing. "What do you mean?" "Like, when it's just me and Dad and Jessica, she barely pays attention to us. But when Emma and Tyler come over, suddenly she's all about family time and taking pictures for her Instagram. And she makes Dad come home early those days even when he doesn't want to." Emma looked up from her phone, frowning. "What are you talking about, Sophie?" Sophie seemed to realize she might be saying too much, but she continued anyway. "Nothing bad. I just noticed things. Like how Jessica practices what she's going to say before she posts videos with you guys in them. And how she gets mad at Dad when he's not friendly enough when Emma and Tyler are around." I felt my pulse quicken, but I kept my voice casual. "Practices what she's going to say?" "Yeah, she'll stand in front of the bathroom mirror and practice talking about family values and being grateful for the kids in our lives. Then she'll come out and say the exact same things to Emma and Tyler, but like it's just natural conversation." Emma was staring at Sophie now, her expression confused and slightly hurt. She practices talking to us? Sophie nodded matter-of-factly. She practices everything she posts online. Dad says it's part of her job, but I think it's weird when she does it about family stuff. Like, shouldn't that be real?
Less than who could provide better opportunities. She was redefining family in ways that positioned her as more important than me in their lives. Emma, how does it make you feel when you realize Jessica might be using your conversations for her blog? My daughter was quiet for a long time, staring at her hands. I don't know. Confused, I guess? I thought she was just talking to us because she cared, not because she needed something to post about. She may care about you, sweetheart, but it sounds like she's also using your relationship with her for other purposes. That doesn't mean you can't enjoy spending time with her, but it's important to understand when someone might have mixed motives. Emma nodded slowly, but I could see the wheels turning in her mind. For the first time in months, she was questioning Jessica's behavior instead of defending it. The next major revelation came through Tyler, though he didn't realize the significance of what he was sharing. He'd spent a long weekend at Jessica's house and came home unusually quiet. When I asked about his trip, he shrugged and said it was fine, but something in his demeanor suggested otherwise. "Did you have fun with the sailing lessons Jessica mentioned?" I asked as we prepared dinner together. Tyler made a face. "We didn't actually go sailing. Jessica said the weather wasn't right, but it was sunny all weekend. Mostly, I just hung out while Jessica and David had these long, quiet conversations in their room." Conversations about what? I couldn't really hear, but David seemed upset about something. And Jessica kept saying stuff about how important it was for their image and how the kids were helping with that. Tyler paused, concentrating on chopping vegetables. "Mom, what did she mean by that? How are me and Emma helping with their image?" I felt a chill run down my spine, but I tried to keep my voice neutral. "What else did you hear?" David said something about how expensive everything was getting and how he wasn't sure it was worth it. Jessica got really upset and said that having a blended family was part of her brand now, and that people expected to see her being good with kids. She said it was an investment in their future. Tyler looked up at me with innocent confusion. "I don't understand what she meant. Are we expensive? And what's a blended family brand?" I had to sit down. Jessica and David were discussing my children like business expenses and marketing tools. Emma and Tyler weren't beloved family members they wanted to nurture and support. They were props in Jessica's lifestyle brand, and apparently expensive props that David was questioning the value of maintaining. "Tyler, sweetie, I think what you overheard was Jessica and David talking about their social media business. Sometimes people who make money online have to think about these things like investments. But that doesn't mean they also don't care about you as a person." I was trying to protect Tyler from the full ugly truth, while still helping him understand that his relationship with Jessica was more complicated than he realized. But internally, I was furious. Jessica had convinced my children that she loved them and wanted the best for them, while privately discussing them as line items in her business plan. Over the next few days, I started paying closer attention to Jessica's social media presence. What I found was even more disturbing than I had expected. Her Instagram feed from the past 6 months told a very specific story about her role as a loving stepmother and aunt who was helping to raise well-adjusted, happy children. The photos were beautifully staged, showing Jessica and the kids in matching outfits, enjoying expensive activities, and looking like the perfect blended family. But the captions were what really revealed Jessica's strategy. Every post emphasized her role as a mentor and guide to Emma and Tyler, positioning her as someone who was filling gaps in their lives and providing stability they apparently lacked elsewhere.
She wrote about the importance of strong female role models, the value of exposing children to different opportunities, and the joy of watching young people thrive when given proper support and resources. The subtext was clear to anyone who knew our family situation. Jessica was presenting herself as the solution to problems in Emma and Tyler's lives, problems that she never directly mentioned but strongly implied existed in their primary home environment. She was building a narrative where she was the hero rescuing my children from limitations and challenges that she was careful never to specify but consistently suggested. Her blog posts were even more explicit. In a piece titled, "When Love Means Stepping Up," Jessica wrote about how sometimes children need additional support beyond what their immediate family can provide. She discussed the importance of extended family members who could offer resources, guidance, and opportunities that might otherwise be unavailable. While she never mentioned me by name, anyone reading the post while looking at her photos with Emma and Tyler would draw obvious conclusions about their living situation and her role in improving it. The most damaging post was one titled, "Creating Space for Dreams." In it, Jessica wrote about how some children were naturally ambitious and talented, but needed the right environment to flourish. She talked about providing safe spaces where kids could express their true feelings about their lives and their futures, and how adults could help young people navigate situations where their potential was being limited by circumstances beyond their control. The post included a photo of Emma and Tyler looking thoughtful and serious, with a caption about how meaningful conversations with trusted adults could help children process complex emotions about their family situations. Jessica was essentially advertising her services as a confidant and alternative parent figure while implying that my children needed rescuing from their current circumstances. What made this particularly insidious was how Jessica framed everything in positive, supportive language. She never criticized me directly or suggested that Emma and Tyler were being mistreated. Instead, she positioned herself as someone who was simply adding value to their lives, filling in gaps and providing additional opportunities. But the cumulative effect of her posts was to create a narrative where she was essential to my children's well-being and future success, while I was at best inadequate and at worst an obstacle to their potential. The business aspect of Jessica's manipulation became even more clear when I discovered that her follower count had increased significantly since she started featuring Emma and Tyler regularly. Her engagement rates were higher on posts that included them, and several of her sponsored content deals specifically mentioned her role as a mother figure to multiple children. She was literally profiting from her relationship with my kids while simultaneously using that relationship to undermine their connection to me. But the final piece of the puzzle came from an unexpected source, my own mother, Carol. She called me on a Thursday evening in late June, her voice tight with concern. "Lisa, I need to talk to you about Jessica and the children." "What about them, Mom?" "Jessica called me today asking for old photos of Emma and Tyler from when they were younger. She said she was making some kind of memory book for them, but when I asked more questions, her story didn't really make sense." I felt my stomach drop. "What kind of questions did you ask?" "Well, I thought it was sweet that she wanted to make a memory book, so I asked if she needed help putting it together or if there was a special occasion it was for. She got vague and said it was just something she was working on for them. But then she started asking specific questions about their early childhood, things like whether they'd ever struggled in school, or if they'd had any behavioral problems, or if you'd ever seemed overwhelmed as a single mother." My hands were shaking now. "Mom, what did you tell her?" "Nothing, because there's nothing to tell. Emma and Tyler have always been wonderful children, and you've been an excellent mother. But Lisa, I got the distinct impression that Jessica was hoping I'd share some kind of concerning information about your parenting or the children's well-being." "Did she say why she needed this information?" "She said she wanted to understand their full story so she could better support them going forward, but it felt like she was fishing for problems that don't exist. When I told her that Emma and Tyler had always been happy, healthy kids with a devoted mother, she seemed disappointed rather than relieved. Carol's revelation confirmed my worst fears about Jessica's intentions. She wasn't just manipulating Emma and Tyler in the present, she was actively trying to construct a narrative about their past that would justify her increasing involvement in their lives. She wanted to find or create evidence that I had been an inadequate mother, that my children had suffered under my care, and that her intervention was necessary for their well-being. The memory book was likely another social media project designed to showcase Jessica's deep involvement in Emma and Tyler's lives while subtly highlighting the gaps she was filling. By collecting childhood photos and information, she could create content that positioned her as someone who had been supporting them through difficult times, even if those difficult times had never actually existed. That night, after Emma and Tyler had gone to bed, I sat in my kitchen with a cup of tea and tried to process the full scope of what Jessica had been doing to my family. This wasn't simple sibling rivalry or misguided generosity. It was a calculated campaign to steal my children's affection and loyalty while building a false narrative about my inadequacy as a mother. Jessica was using sophisticated psychological manipulation techniques, leveraging her wealth and social media platform, and even involving my own mother in her efforts to undermine my parenting. But most importantly, I finally understood that Jessica's behavior wasn't really about Emma and Tyler at all. They were tools in her larger project of maintaining her lifestyle brand and marriage. She needed them to prove her value as a family woman, to provide content for her social media empire, and to fill emotional gaps in her own life that her relationship with David apparently wasn't addressing. The question now was what I was going to do about it. Jessica had spent months carefully positioning herself as the loving aunt who only wanted the best for Emma and Tyler. She had resources, influence, and a carefully crafted public image that would make any direct confrontation difficult. If I accused her of manipulation, she could easily frame me as the jealous sister who resented her success and generosity. But I also knew that Jessica had made mistakes. Her manipulation was so systematic and calculated that there had to be evidence of her real motivations and methods. The conversations Sophie had overheard, the rehearsed interactions, the social media strategy, the attempts to dig up negative information about my parenting, all of these suggested that Jessica's campaign against me was documented somewhere. More importantly, Emma and Tyler were starting to notice inconsistencies in Jessica's behavior. Sophie's innocent observations had planted seeds of doubt, and Tyler's account of overhearing Jessica and David discussing them as business expenses had clearly made him uncomfortable. My children were beginning to see cracks in the perfect facade Jessica had presented to them. The manipulation had been subtle and gradual, but it had also been extensive enough to leave traces. Jessica's need to document everything for her social media brand meant that much of her strategy was probably visible online if someone knew how to look for it. Her conversations with David about the costs and benefits of their involvement with Emma and Tyler suggested that there were private discussions that contradicted her public persona as their devoted aunt. I realized that fighting Jessica would require the same kind of strategic thinking she'd been using against me. I couldn't simply confront her directly or try to forbid Emma and Tyler from seeing her. That would only confirm the narrative she'd been building about me being controlling and unreasonable. Instead, I needed to help my children see the truth about Jessica's motivations while gathering evidence of her manipulation that would expose her publicly if necessary. The war for my children's hearts and minds wasn't over, but for the first time in months, I felt like I understood the battlefield and had a strategy for fighting back. Jessica had underestimated both my intelligence and my determination to protect Emma and Tyler. She was about to discover that manipulating a mother's children was the surest way to awaken a fierce protectiveness that no amount of wealth, influence, or social media savvy could overcome.
Organized some files on her computer for her blog, and I accidentally opened the wrong folder. I found something that I think you need to see, but it's going to make you really upset. My heart began to race, but I kept my voice calm. Show me. Emma opened her photos and scrolled to a screenshot she'd taken. It showed a document titled Content Strategy, Family Integration Project. Below that was a detailed outline that made my blood run cold. The document laid out a systematic plan for gradually shifting Emma and Tyler's primary emotional attachments and building a case for expanded custody arrangements. "There's more," Emma whispered, tears starting to form in her eyes. "She has a whole folder called Lisa documentation with notes about every conversation we've had about you, every complaint we've made about our house or money, everything we've told her about feeling frustrated or disappointed." She scrolled to another screenshot showing a spreadsheet with dates, quotes from Emma and Tyler, and Jessica's commentary about how each piece of information could be utilized for narrative building. My daughter had discovered that every private conversation, every moment of typical teenage frustration, every innocent comment about our family life had been cataloged and weaponized. "Emma, I'm so sorry you had to see this. How are you feeling about it?" "Angry," she said immediately, "and stupid. All those times she said she was just being a good aunt who wanted to listen to us, she was actually collecting evidence to use against you. She's been lying to us this whole time." I pulled Emma into a hug, feeling her tremble against me. "You're not stupid, honey. Adults who manipulate children are very good at hiding their real intentions. Jessica made you feel special and heard, and those feelings were real even if her motivations weren't." "There's something else, Mom. Something worse." Emma showed me a third screenshot, this one of an email exchange between Jessica and someone named Marcus Hoffman. The subject line read, "Family court consultation, custody modification strategies." In the email, Jessica described Emma and Tyler as children who were being emotionally neglected in their current environment and needed intervention from a more stable family situation. The legal consultation email detailed Jessica's plan to petition for formal custody rights, claiming that I was financially unstable, emotionally unavailable, and unable to provide adequate opportunities for my children's development. She had even fabricated specific incidents, describing times when Emma and Tyler had supposedly come to her house upset about my parenting, conversations that had never happened in the way she described them. "She's been planning to take us away from you this whole time," Emma said, her voice breaking. "Everything she said about just wanting to help and be a good aunt was a lie. She's been trying to steal us." I held Emma tighter, my mind racing through the implications of what she had discovered. Jessica hadn't just been manipulating my children for social media content or to fill emotional gaps in her own life. She had been building a legal case to take them away from me permanently. Every act of generosity, every expression of concern, every criticism of our lifestyle had been part of a calculated plan to position herself as their savior and me as an unfit mother. "Emma, I need you to send me those screenshots, and I need to know if there's anything else in those files that shows Jessica's real intentions." My daughter nodded, her anger giving her courage. "I took pictures of everything I could find. There are notes about how to document our visits, how to get us to say things that could be used in court, even instructions about what kinds of photos to take that would make it look like we're happier with her than we are with you." As Emma shared screenshot after screenshot, the full scope of Jessica's deception became clear. She had been conducting psychological warfare against a single mother and her children, using sophisticated manipulation techniques while documenting everything for potential legal proceedings. She had consulted with family court attorneys, researched custody modification procedures, and even identified specific strategies for undermining my parental rights. But Jessica had made one crucial error. She had underestimated Emma's intelligence and curiosity. My 14-year-old daughter had stumbled across evidence that exposed the entire conspiracy, and she was smart enough to understand exactly what it meant. "Mom, what are we going to do?" I looked at my daughter, seeing not the confused, manipulated child Jessica had tried to create, but the strong, perceptive young woman I had raised. "We're going to make sure the truth comes out. But first, I need to talk to Tyler and help him understand what's been happening." The conversation with Tyler was harder because he was younger and had been more thoroughly convinced of Jessica's benevolence. When I showed him the evidence Emma had found, his first reaction was denial. "There has to be some explanation," he said desperately. "Maybe she was just keeping notes to help remember things about us. Maybe the lawyer thing is about something else." "Tyler, I know this is hard to accept, but look at this email again. Jessica specifically talks about taking you and Emma away from me. She describes our family situation in ways that aren't true, making it sound like I'm not taking good care of you. Tyler read through the legal consultation email again, his face growing pale. She said we told her we were unhappy living here. But I never said that. I mean, sometimes I complain about stuff, but that's normal, right? All kids complain sometimes. Of course it's normal. But Jessica was taking your normal feelings and twisting them into something much more serious. She was trying to make it seem like you were unhappy because I wasn't a good mother, not because you're a regular 12-year-old who sometimes gets frustrated. The reality hit Tyler hard. So when she said she wanted to help us have better opportunities, she really meant she wanted to take us away from you. It looks like that, yes. Tyler was quiet for a long time processing this betrayal. When he finally spoke, his voice was small and hurt. I believed her. I actually started thinking maybe we would be better off living with her. I feel so stupid. You're not stupid, Tyler. Adults who manipulate children are very good at hiding their real intentions. Jessica made you feel special and heard, and those feelings were real, even if her motivations weren't. There's something else, Mom. Something worse. That night, after Emma and Tyler had gone to bed, I sat down with all the evidence and began planning my response. Jessica had spent months building her case against me, but she had also created a detailed record of her own manipulation and deception. Every document Emma had found was evidence of Jessica's calculated campaign to
Steal my children. But I knew that simply confronting Jessica with this evidence wouldn't be enough. She was sophisticated and well-connected, with resources I couldn't match. If I wanted to truly stop her and ensure she could never threaten my family again, I needed to think strategically. The next morning, I called Amanda Foster, my teacher friend who had become my closest confidant during this ordeal. Amanda, I need your help with something serious. Can you come over this evening after Emma and Tyler are asleep? When Amanda arrived and I showed her the evidence Emma had discovered, her reaction was immediate and fierce. Lisa, this is criminal. Jessica has been systematically manipulating children with the intent to destroy their relationship with their mother. You need to take this to the police, to a lawyer, just someone in authority. I've thought about that, but I'm not sure it would be enough. Jessica is careful, and she has money for good lawyers. She could probably spin this as misunderstood notes or claim the custody consultation was just exploratory. Amanda studied the screenshots more carefully. But this isn't just about legal action, is it? You said she's been using Emma and Tyler for her social media brand. What if her followers knew the truth about how she's been treating her sister's children? That was exactly what I'd been thinking. Jessica's entire online persona was built around being the perfect family woman, the supportive sister, the nurturing aunt. If her 100,000 followers knew that she'd been psychologically manipulating children and plotting to separate them from their mother, her reputation and her business would be destroyed. I've been thinking about that too, but I need to be careful about how I handle it. If I just post accusations online, I could look like the crazy, jealous sister. I need something more strategic. Amanda grinned. What if you didn't have to post anything yourself? What if Jessica's own actions spoke for themselves? Over the next few hours, Amanda and I developed a plan that would use Jessica's own methods against her. If Jessica wanted to play psychological games and document everything for strategic purposes, then she would face consequences delivered through her own preferred medium, social media, and public reputation. The first step was gathering more evidence. Emma had found Jessica's planning documents, but I needed proof of the manipulation tactics she'd been using. I began recording conversations with Emma and Tyler about their experiences with Jessica, not to use against them, but to document the specific things Jessica had said and done that constituted emotional manipulation. I also started screenshotting Jessica's social media posts systematically, paying particular attention to how she'd been using images and stories about Emma and Tyler to build her brand. The pattern was clear once you knew what to look for. Jessica had been exploiting my children's presence in her life for commercial gain while simultaneously working to remove them from mine.
The most damning evidence came from Jessica herself. 3 days after Emma's discovery, Jessica called me with a proposition that revealed just how far she was willing to go. Lisa, I've been thinking about Emma and Tyler's future, and I have an offer that I think could benefit everyone. What kind of offer? David and I would like to offer to pay for Emma and Tyler's private school tuition, college expenses, and living costs if they were to stay with us permanently. We could provide them with opportunities and stability that would be difficult for you to match on a teacher's salary. My heart pounded, but I kept my voice neutral. Are you asking me to give up custody of my children? I'm asking you to consider what's best for them. Emma is at a crucial age for academic preparation, and Tyler has real athletic potential that needs proper development. We're in a position to give them everything they need to succeed. And what would my role be in this arrangement? You'd always be their mother, of course, but sometimes love means making sacrifices for our children's future. I'm offering them a chance at a life you simply can't provide. I was recording this conversation, and Jessica's words were damning. She was openly trying to convince me to surrender my children by framing it as a loving sacrifice. This wasn't about their well-being. It was about Jessica getting what she wanted while making me complicit in my own loss. Jessica, I need time to think about this. Of course, but Lisa, I hope you'll really consider what's best for Emma and Tyler, not what's easiest for you. After I hung up, I had everything I needed. Jessica had documented her own manipulation strategy, consulted with lawyers about custody modification, and now made a direct attempt to convince me to give up my children. She had created a comprehensive record of her campaign to steal Emma and Tyler, and she'd done it because she was so confident in her own superiority that she never considered the possibility of being exposed. But the final piece of my plan required patience and perfect timing. Jessica's downfall would need to be public, complete, and impossible for her to recover from. She had spent years building her reputation as the perfect lifestyle guru and family woman. When that reputation crumbled, it would take everything she had worked for with it. The opportunity came 2 weeks later when Jessica announced on her social media that she was hosting a live streaming event called Blended Family Success Stories. She promoted it as an intimate conversation about the joys and challenges of modern family dynamics, featuring special appearances by the amazing children who have brought such joy to our extended family. Emma and Tyler were supposed to be the stars of this live event, sharing their experiences about how wonderful it was to have Jessica's support and guidance in their lives. It was the perfect platform for Jessica to showcase her role as their beloved aunt and mentor, while subtly undermining my position as their mother. But Jessica had no idea that Emma and Tyler now knew the truth about her motivations. They understood that they'd been manipulated, exploited, and used as pawns in Jessica's larger games. And they were angry enough to do something about it. On the night of Jessica's live stream, over 5,000 people tuned in to watch what they expected to be a heartwarming discussion about family love and support. Instead, they witnessed Jessica's complete and public destruction when Emma and Tyler told the truth about what she had really been doing to their family. "Before we talk about blended families," Emma said, looking directly into the camera, "I think people should know that Jessica has been lying about her relationship with me and my brother. She's been recording our conversations, documenting our complaints about normal teenage stuff, and trying to build a legal case to take us away from our mom."
Printouts of Jessica's planning documents. She has files on her computer called Lisa Documentation, where she writes down everything we say so she can use it against our mother later. She's been pretending to care about us, but really, she just wants us for her social media content and to make herself look good. Jessica's face went white as her carefully constructed image crumbled in real time. The live chat exploded with shocked comments and questions. Viewers who had followed Jessica for years watched as the children she'd presented as loving family members exposed her as a manipulative fraud.
Jessica has been lying to everyone. Emma continued, her voice strong and clear. She made us think our mom wasn't good enough, that we needed her to have better lives. But the truth is, our mom has always been amazing, and Jessica was just trying to steal us because her own life isn't as perfect as she pretends online. The live stream continued for another hour as Jessica tried desperately to control the damage, but it was too late. The truth was out, and it was spreading faster than she could contain it. By the next morning, screen recordings of the stream had been shared thousands of times across social media platforms. News outlets picked up the story of the lifestyle blogger exposed by the children she'd been manipulating. Jessica's followers abandoned her in droves. Sponsors canceled their contracts. Her husband David, faced with the public revelation of his wife's psychological manipulation of children, filed for divorce within the week. The perfect life Jessica had built through lies, manipulation, and exploitation collapsed completely. But the most important victory was the one that happened in my own home. Emma and Tyler, having seen through Jessica's deception and taken control of their own narrative, were free from her influence. They understood that family wasn't about who could provide the most expensive opportunities, but about who truly loved and supported them through all of life's challenges. As we sat together in our modest living room that night, eating pizza and watching a movie on our old couch, I realized that Jessica's manipulation had ultimately backfired completely. She had tried to convince my children that they needed something better than what I could provide, but in the end, they discovered that what we had together was more valuable than anything money could buy. Tyler looked up at me during a quiet moment in the movie. "Mom, I'm sorry I believed her lies about you." "You have nothing to apologize for, sweetheart. Jessica was very good at manipulation, and you were just being a normal kid who wanted good things in life." Emma curled up closer to me on the couch. "I'm glad we found out the truth. I love our life here. I love you." Jessica had poisoned my children against me with lies designed to serve her own selfish purposes. But in the end, the truth was stronger than her deception, and justice came through the very medium she'd used to build her false empire. She had lost everything she tried to steal from us, while Emma, Tyler, and I emerged stronger and more united than ever before. The aftermath of Jessica's public humiliation was swift and devastating. Within 24 hours of Emma and Tyler's explosive revelation during the live stream, Jessica's entire world began to unravel in ways that exceeded even my expectations. The video clips from that night had gone viral across multiple platforms, with millions of views and thousands of comments from outraged viewers who couldn't believe what they'd witnessed. The first major blow came from her sponsors. Jessica's lifestyle blog had been monetized through partnerships with luxury brands, home goods companies, and family-oriented businesses who paid her substantial fees to promote their products to her affluent audience. These companies had built their marketing strategies around Jessica's image as a trustworthy family woman who embodied the values their customers aspired to achieve. When that image was shattered by her own behavior being exposed on live television, the corporate response was immediate and merciless. By noon the next day, Jessica had received termination notices from every single one of her major sponsors: luxury kitchen appliance brands, high-end children's clothing companies, premium vacation destinations, and organic food manufacturers, all issued public statements distancing themselves from Jessica and her blog. Several companies specifically mentioned their commitment to protecting children and families from exploitation, making it clear that they viewed Jessica's actions as fundamentally incompatible with their brand values. The financial impact was catastrophic. Jessica's blog had been generating over $200,000 annually through sponsored content, affiliate marketing, and product placements. That income stream disappeared entirely within 48 hours, leaving her with massive monthly expenses from her Newport Beach lifestyle, but no legitimate way to pay for them. The waterfront mansion, the luxury cars, the designer wardrobe, the elaborate vacations that had formed the backdrop of her online persona were all financed through income that no longer existed. But the financial destruction was only the beginning. Jessica's social media following, which had taken years to build and had been the foundation of her entire career, evaporated with stunning speed. Her Instagram account lost over 60,000 followers in the first week alone, as viewers who had once admired her lifestyle and family content realized they'd been watching a carefully constructed lie. The comment sections of her posts became floods of angry messages from former fans who felt betrayed and manipulated. Many of these comments came from other parent bloggers and lifestyle influencers who wanted to distance themselves from Jessica's behavior. These creators, who understood how the industry worked, could see exactly what Jessica was doing and were appalled by the breach of ethics and basic human decency it represented. Their public condemnation carried weight with audiences who might have been tempted to give Jessica the benefit of the doubt. Jessica tried desperately to control the narrative in the days following the live stream disaster. She posted a series of increasingly frantic videos attempting to explain her actions and portray herself as the victim of a misunderstanding. In these videos, she claimed that her documentation of conversations with Emma and Tyler was meant to protect them from their neglectful mother. Emma and Tyler had been taken out of context, that her consultation with family law attorneys had been purely precautionary, and that her offers to provide financial support for the children had been motivated by genuine love and concern. But Jessica's explanations only made things worse. Viewers who watched her defensive videos could see the desperation and dishonesty in her responses. She couldn't credibly deny the evidence that Emma had discovered because it had been documented in her own words and planning documents. Her attempts to reframe her manipulation as misunderstood generosity fell flat with audiences who had heard Emma and Tyler describe their experiences firsthand. More damaging still, Jessica's crisis management attempts revealed additional information about her deceptive practices. In trying to defend her actions, she inadvertently confirmed details about her systematic manipulation that made her behavior appear even more calculated and cruel. She admitted to keeping detailed notes about conversations with the children, acknowledged consulting with lawyers about custody possibilities, and confirmed that she'd been using Emma and Tyler's presence in her content for business purposes. The media attention that followed the viral live stream brought even more scrutiny to Jessica's past behavior. Investigative bloggers and social media researchers began examining her previous content with new eyes, looking for patterns of manipulation and deception. What they found was years of carefully crafted content that took on sinister new meanings when viewed through the lens of her exposed manipulation campaign. Posts that had once seemed like heartwarming family moments were revealed as staged performances designed to serve Jessica's business interests. Captions about the joys of supporting children through difficult transitions became evidence of her systematic campaign to undermine my relationship with Emma and Tyler. Photos of expensive gifts and elaborate outings were exposed as part of a calculated strategy to make my children dissatisfied with their normal family life. The most damaging discovery came when researchers found archived versions of posts that Jessica had deleted after Emma's revelations. These posts contained even more explicit references to her role in guiding Emma and Tyler through challenges in their home environment and helping them recognize their true potential. Jessica had been so confident in her manipulation that she'd essentially confessed to it in public, never imagining that anyone would have reason to question her motives. David Martinez's response to his wife's public disgrace was swift and decisive. As a tech executive with his own professional reputation to protect, David couldn't afford to be associated with someone who had been exposed as a child manipulator and fraud. The divorce papers were filed less than a week after the live stream, citing irreconcilable differences and requesting immediate separation of assets. But David's divorce filing revealed even more damaging information about Jessica's behavior. In the court documents, David's attorneys detailed the financial strain that Jessica's manipulation campaign had placed on their household. The expensive gifts for Emma and Tyler, the elaborate outings and vacations, the costs of maintaining appearances for her social media content had all been funded by David's income without his full knowledge of their purpose. David's filing also included testimony about Jessica's obsessive behavior regarding the children and her increasing instability as her manipulation campaign intensified. He described finding Jessica practicing conversations in front of mirrors, obsessively monitoring social media engagement on posts featuring Emma and Tyler, and becoming increasingly paranoid about protecting her online image. The picture that emerged was of a woman whose mental health had deteriorated as she became more deeply invested in her deceptive schemes. The revelation of Jessica's financial dependence on David's income added another layer of humiliation to her downfall. Her entire lifestyle, including the mansion and luxury goods that had formed the basis of her online brand, had been funded by her husband's money rather than her own success. When David cut off her access to those funds as part of the divorce proceedings, Jessica lost not only her income, but also the props that had made her lifestyle content possible. Sophie Martinez, David's 10-year-old daughter, provided some of the most heartbreaking testimony about Jessica's true character. In conversations with court-appointed child advocates, Sophie described feeling ignored and dismissed by Jessica, except when Emma and Tyler were around. She talked about Jessica's mood swings, her obsession with creating perfect social media content, and her cruel comments about other family members when she thought no one was listening. Sophie's accounts painted a picture of Jessica as someone who was incapable of genuine love or care for children, even her own stepdaughter. Her manipulation of Emma and Tyler hadn't been an aberration, but part of a pattern of viewing children as objects to be used for her own purposes. The court took Sophie's testimony seriously in determining custody arrangements, and David was awarded full custody, with Jessica granted only supervised visitation rights. The legal consequences for Jessica extended beyond her divorce proceedings. Several family advocacy organizations filed complaints with social media platforms about Jessica's exploitation of children for commercial purposes. These complaints led to investigations that resulted in Jessica's accounts being demonetized and flagged for violating policies about child safety and exploitation. More seriously, the evidence of Jessica's systematic manipulation of Emma and Tyler caught the attention of Child Protective Services investigators who were concerned about her pattern of behavior toward minors. While no formal charges were filed, Jessica was placed on watch lists that would prevent her from working in any capacity involving children or families. The professional consequences were equally devastating. Jessica's attempts to pivot her career toward other forms of content creation were blocked by her poisoned reputation. Potential business partners, collaborators, and employers all avoided association with someone who had been publicly exposed as a child manipulator. Her name had become synonymous with deception and exploitation in the family content space. Jessica's attempts to rebuild her online presence under different names or personas were quickly discovered and exposed by the same researchers who had uncovered her previous deceptions. The internet had a long memory for public scandals, and Jessica's face and voice were too recognizable to allow for successful rebranding. She was effectively blacklisted from the social media industry that
Had once made her wealthy and famous. The psychological impact of Jessica's downfall was perhaps the most severe consequence of all. Having built her entire identity around her online persona and public image, Jessica was left with nothing when that facade crumbled. Friends who had been attracted to her wealth and lifestyle disappeared when those advantages evaporated. Social circles that had welcomed her influence and connections rejected her when she became a liability. Jessica's family relationships were also destroyed by her actions. Our mother, Carol, was devastated to learn about Jessica's manipulation of Emma and Tyler, feeling betrayed and confused by behavior that seemed completely contrary to the values she'd tried to instill in both of her daughters. The extended family network that had once celebrated Jessica's success turned away from her in disgust and disappointment. But while Jessica's world collapsed around her, my family grew stronger and more united than ever before. The experience of discovering and exposing Jessica's manipulation had taught Emma and Tyler valuable lessons about recognizing deception, standing up for truth, and appreciating the genuine love and support they'd always had at home.
Emma threw herself into her art with renewed passion, creating a series of paintings that explored themes of authenticity versus performance, truth versus manipulation. Her work was sophisticated and emotionally powerful, reflecting the maturity she'd gained through experiencing and overcoming Jessica's psychological campaign. Several of her pieces were selected for display in local art shows, earning recognition that was based purely on her talent rather than any adult's exploitation of her gifts. Tyler's relationship with soccer evolved in healthier directions as well. Free from Jessica's pressure to pursue elite training and competition, he was able to rediscover his love for the game itself, rather than the status and opportunities it might provide. He continued playing for his school team and local leagues, but with a focus on enjoyment and team camaraderie rather than individual advancement. Both children developed stronger critical thinking skills as a result of their experience with Jessica's manipulation. They became more skeptical of adults who made grand promises or seemed too eager to criticize their current situation. They learned to value consistency and authenticity over flashy gestures and expensive gifts. Most importantly, they gained confidence in their own judgment and their ability to recognize when someone was trying to manipulate them. Our family routines and traditions took on new meaning after the crisis with Jessica. Simple activities like cooking dinner together, watching movies on our old couch, and talking about our days became precious reminders of the genuine love and connection that had always been present in our home. Emma and Tyler expressed gratitude for things they'd previously taken for granted, understanding now how valuable and rare authentic family relationships actually were. The financial stability that had always been a source of stress in our household improved significantly in the months following Jessica's downfall. I received a promotion at school that came with a modest salary increase, and both children qualified for academic scholarships that helped with their extracurricular activities. We were still a single-income family living modestly, but we no longer felt inadequate or disadvantaged compared to others. The community response to our family's experience was overwhelmingly supportive. Other parents reached out to share their own stories of dealing with manipulative relatives or friends who had tried to undermine their parenting. Teachers, neighbors, and friends who had witnessed Emma and Tyler's behavior changes during Jessica's manipulation campaign expressed relief at seeing the children return to their normal, happy selves. Several local organizations invited me to speak about recognizing and addressing child manipulation, drawing on my experience as both an educator and a parent who had successfully protected her children from psychological abuse. These speaking opportunities allowed me to help other families while also processing my own experience in meaningful ways. The legal documentation of Jessica's manipulation tactics became a resource for family courts and child advocates dealing with similar cases. The systematic nature of her campaign and the comprehensive evidence we'd gathered provided a clear example of how sophisticated manipulation could be disguised as loving concern. This documentation helped other families who were facing similar threats from relatives or acquaintances who wanted to undermine parental relationships. A year after the live stream that destroyed Jessica's career and reputation, I received an unexpected phone call. Jessica's voice was barely recognizable, weak and defeated in ways that would once have made me feel sorry for her. She was calling from a small apartment in a different state, working a minimum wage retail job, and living under a different name to avoid recognition.
Lisa, I know I have no right to ask for anything from you, but I need you to understand that I never meant for things to go as far as they did. I listened without responding, unsure whether Jessica was capable of genuine remorse or if this was another manipulation attempt. I was so jealous of your relationship with Emma and Tyler, of how much they loved you naturally, without you having to work for it or buy it. I convinced myself that I could give them better opportunities, but I realize now that I was just trying to steal something that I could never really have. Jessica, what you did to my children was unforgivable. You systematically manipulated them for months, trying to destroy their relationship with their mother for your own selfish purposes. The fact that it didn't work doesn't make it less horrible. I know. I've lost everything, and I deserve it. But Lisa, I need you to know that Emma and Tyler are lucky to have you. They always were. I was just too selfish and jealous to see it. After Jessica hung up, I sat quietly for a long time, thinking about forgiveness, consequences, and the different paths people choose when faced with their own insecurities and inadequacies.
Jessica had chosen manipulation and deception, and she was now living with the complete destruction of everything she'd built through those choices. I had chosen honesty, hard work, and genuine care for my children, and despite financial struggles and moments of doubt, those choices had created something lasting and valuable. That evening, as Emma and Tyler helped me prepare dinner in our small kitchen, I watched them laugh together and felt overwhelming gratitude for the family we'd preserved and strengthened through our ordeal. Jessica had tried to poison my children against me with lies designed to serve her own desperate needs, but truth had ultimately prevailed. The authentic love and connection that had always existed between us had proven stronger than any manipulation or deception. Emma looked up from the vegetable she was chopping and smiled at me. "Mom, I'm really glad we figured out the truth about Jessica. Our life might not be as fancy as what she was offering, but it's real, and it's ours." Tyler nodded enthusiastically. "Yeah, and we know you actually love us for who we are, not because you need us for something else." In that moment, I understood that Jessica's manipulation had actually strengthened our family in unexpected ways. By threatening our relationships, she had forced us to examine and articulate what we truly valued about each other. By offering false alternatives, she had helped Emma and Tyler recognize the genuine love they'd always had. By trying to poison them against me with lies, she had ultimately helped them discover the power and importance of truth. Jessica Martinez had lost everything in her attempt to steal my children's love and loyalty. Her reputation, her career, her marriage, her financial security, and her family relationships had all been destroyed by her own choices and actions. She was now living anonymously in poverty, her dreams of influence and luxury permanently shattered by the consequences of her manipulation and deception. But Emma, Tyler, and I had emerged from the ordeal stronger, wiser, and more grateful for each other than ever before. We had learned that genuine family bonds couldn't be bought or stolen, that truth was more powerful than lies, and that love based on authenticity and sacrifice would always triumph over relationships built on manipulation and self-interest. The house on Maple Street that Jessica had once seen as inadequate now felt like a fortress of love and truth. Our modest lifestyle that she had criticized as limiting now seemed rich with genuine connection and shared values. The family dinners, home York sessions, and movie nights that she had dismissed as boring now appeared precious and irreplaceable. Jessica had tried to poison my children against me with lies, but in the end, I had poisoned her reputation with truth. Justice had been served not through courts or lawyers, but through the exposure of her real character to the very audience she had tried so hard to impress. Her downfall had been complete, public, and permanent, while our family's victory was quiet, private, and lasting.